This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 306 for Wednesday, February 20th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me again this week, Megan Townsend. Oh, Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters. Hello.
Hello.
It's been a minute, I think, since the last time you and I had a chat. I missed a podcast last week. I didn't do one, which is weird for me.
Yeah.
I was working at the Assembly of First Nations Education Forum, which was held here in Halifax, and just like people were like, Joel, what were you doing there? I was drawing people. I was doing cartoons of the attendees. The AFN, the Assembly of First Nations, hired me for the 3 days of the conference to provide something, to their attendees of the conference. So it was fun. I got to chat with a lot of people. I got to meet some very interesting folks, including a couple of chiefs in the First Nations community, which was really, really cool. And it was fun. I didn't draw as many people as I thought. I'm not as fast as some people might think. But I focused on the experience of like the people that I was talking with. I mean, it was still only 10 minutes. Like I was able to do like probably 3 or 4, well, four to five. I would say 4 on average in an hour of sitting there and talking with people, which I think is enough. Like that's not 10 minutes is not a long time, I think, to sit. To have someone draw a cartoon, and I think the other thing too that people might not realize when I talk about this kind of stuff is that I'm not a caricaturist, so I don't make really silly cartoons of people that, like, if your ears are a little bit big or if you've got funny hair, I'm not turning you into like this giant mop head Dumbo character. I do more cartoon portrait. So kind of like, what would you look like if you ended up in a Pixar movie or a Disney hand-drawn animated Disney cartoon or something on Netflix. So that's kind of the realm that I go in. So it's a little bit slower in terms of, because you're trying to capture the person, you're not just making fun of them. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really nice people, and but unfortunately, it took me out of the studio for 3 days. Right across the midweek, it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I did not have the time to do anything else, especially because it was outside the house. I then had to commute. So like, it's not something I'm used to when I can record, the Citadel Cafe at just about any time of day on a Wednesday that fits my schedule. And then Lou, who was supposed to be on last week, also had a very busy week. So we were just like, you know what? Let's just chill. Let's just take a week and recoup and come back a little bit energized. So, but I wanted to thank all the people that took the time to sit at the conference and talk with me and get drawn, because it was a really interesting artistic experience for me to talk with all these people from different areas of the country and different communities across the First Nations community in Canada, and it was really, really cool. It was an excellent learning experience, but also a lot of fun, because they've got kids. The kids play Minecraft, so there was lots of fun things to talk about that weren't like education or First Nations related, but I mean that dominated. But there was other really cool stuff to talk about as well, which I thought was great.
That's awesome.
So really I'd like to do more of it in the future. I don't know if I want to do it for 3 days straight,
right?
Just because it'd be a cool thing to do on like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Do like an event. Someone wanted to do like a birthday party or a wedding or something like that. I think that would be really fun.
Ooh, weddings would be fun.
Yeah, a wedding would be a really good time. And I have a couple of friends in the city. I say number. I think there's only 2 other people that I know of that do this locally, and I know one of them does quite a few events like that. Corporate parties, weddings, that sort of thing. So I might look into it to see what else I can do. But that's me. What have you been up to the last little bit?
Oh boy,
that much, huh?
Not really. Nothing
Winter
really.
in Canada, folks. There's not a lot to do.
Winter in Canada, hermiting, hibernating.
Yeah.
No, I've just been like trying to hang out with people kind of in person, playing a lot of D&D.
Nice.
Mostly, yeah. Trying to do a lot of writing, watching some new shows.
Do you
And
when you play D&D, like do you have one campaign that you're committed to or do you have multiple?
uh, multiple, but with the same group of people.
Oh, interesting.
So okay, so I have two main groups. So every Wednesday night at a local comic book store called the Monster Comic Lounge, they do an event called Wizards of the Coast Adventures League.
Mhm.
And Wizards of the Coast are like, one of the publishers of like the D&D books. So like the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, things like
Mhm.
that. They're kind of, the people who've popularized it. So they've made like a sort of league that is international called the Adventurers League, and they basically roll out a basic season or like a plot point, and then at different points around the world there's epics that happen. So like it's like four different tables come together, or like there's like a room of like seven different tables, and each of them have like a different mission to accomplish, and whether or not some succeed or fail, it will affect the next epic that happens. We have a what we call like a the idea behind Adventures League is that you just have a character and you can travel with this character to different tables. Like your character is just sort of like a freelance adventurer who can jump in sort of wherever. But you have to adhere to a lot of like really strict D&D rules. You can't do a lot of this homebrew stuff that
Mhm.
most people are used to doing, because it's not with one DM. You have to keep track of all your stuff so that if you go anywhere, you're playing legally all the time, and it's a way to keep people accountable and not making characters that are super overpowered
Mhm.
and ridiculous and things like that. um, but they recently changed the rules of AL, and they kind of made it a little bit less fun. Like before, with anything that you played, if say you went to go kill a dragon and the dragon had a bunch of money, like a hoard of gold, you couldn't, like before, you could just take whatever you could carry physically, because they do have like a weight
Mhm.
like limit that you can carry before you're encumbered and can't move as quickly. Um, but now they've changed the rules so that in order for people to avoid, getting too much money, now you only get money when you level up, and it's like the equivalent of a minimum wage job.
Mm.
So it's you got to figure out now why your adventurer is willing to leave, you know, family and friends and go on this adventure for minimum wage work,
Mm.
which doesn't really work. So, with our group, we were really lucky that we have a small enough area that we managed to have a regular table, like a big group of friends. My roommate was introduced by one of her work friends, who then pulled in some other work friends, and it just sort of turned into this regular routine table of people that we see all the time, to the point we have a Facebook group going, and we
Oh,
can
nice.
figure out who's going to be
Yeah.
there. And
Is
um,
is it is it a heavy RP table or is it a little bit more casual?
no, it's more so casual. I think a lot of us are really into the ERP aspect of it, so I think our table might eventually move out of doing the AL side of things and focus on more of an RP experience.
Mm.
Um, Now, like, we've had a couple discussions in group. Like, one of the girls who's there likes RP, doesn't mind RP, but doesn't want to be penalized for not being able to do RP, um,
See now
or,
that
or
that to
or not
me,
able to do it.
yeah, that to me makes a lot of sense because I mean I
Yeah,
don't necessarily mind it because in the company that I've played D&D and very very seldomly a lot of the people would be other mutual friends that you and I have. Um, it would be RP not in a jokey
oh, you
way.
cut out there.
No, it's okay. It's gonna happen. I think Discord unfortunately is being silly today, so apologies, folks, if there's a lot of drops in the call. Uh, one of the things that uh, it wouldn't necessarily be being jokey in making fun of RP, right? Like it wouldn't be condescending or anything like that. But in like, I am going to destroy this thing. Like they would get very, very excited about the capabilities of their character and get into it, but not in a way that they're putting on voices or accents
Yeah,
or they like.
yeah,
There's always that person at the convention that comes up to my table and won't break character because they don't understand what this fancy computer drawing stuff is. It's like, oh, dude, like just it's fine.
yeah,
It's like that the moment that you start talking to me at my table, just become a human. It's, other than that, it's all the power to you. But like
See,
those,
sometimes it's charming. Sometimes
it
it's really
can
charming,
be.
but it
It
can't.
can be
Yeah,
if it's the first
sometimes.
15 seconds, and then when you actually answer the question, if they snap out of it and they go, "Oh, cool, that's really neat. Yeah, I'll be back later." You're like, "Okay, good," and they're
Mm,
like, "Forsooth, citizen, goodbye," and you're like, "Yeah, okay, that's funny, right?" Like
yeah,
that's good. But when it they look at you like, "Why are you speaking so funny?" Oh, dude or girl, it could be
yeah,
anybody. But more
yeah.
often than not, it's happened to me with male con goers. But the reason why I ask is because I get into D&D and I like that kind of stuff, but I am not going to speak in an accent or be in character all the time at the table. I will think like my character. Like I will not make
Mm,
Joel decisions. I will make, Dirg the Destroyer decisions if that's what I want to do.
right.
But but I prefer to not do like getting to acting or acting out or like that kind of stuff. And there's also, I find sometimes with role playing at a table, there's that moment where someone's like, well, I'm gonna play like a trickster or a mischievous character, and that to me is often a problem where it's like, here's the situation, maybe we're in a fight or something like that, and we all as adults that are playing D&D understand how to do this and what the best course of action to do is. And then
Hmm.
because that person is RPing someone that is selfish and mischievous, they say, "Oh, well, I know the right thing to do and I can see the strategy here, but because I'm RPing, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what the party
Ugh,
needs." And you're just like, "Okay,
ugh.
yes, okay, I'm glad we're on the same page because that is the kind of crap that's where I'm just like, "Okay, we're going to be here for 3 hours. I don't want to be here for 5."
See,
Like
okay,
it
so
just
I have mixed feelings about it because from like a gameplay aspect is really frustrating, but at the same time, I really, really like very truly character-based decisions because I feel like at the heart of it, you're telling a story, like you're telling a like a joint, it's collective storytelling.
yes.
And sometimes you have characters that will fuck shit up, if I can say
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. Well,
really,
because
really
people die
bluntly.
in DVD in D&D. Like if you're playing like permadeath and all that kind of stuff, then like yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Like there can be some real consequences to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But like we had one situation, like one campaign, and like thinking back on it, it was funny and it was a really, really character-based decision. In the moment, I couldn't tell if I was angry or if my character was angry. But like we had a minute where like this we had a rogue that would just kind of jump into situations without really thinking about it, and it got him into a lot of trouble. So there was a moment or like he just stole something and it caused this whole rock slide that almost wiped out half of us. So my character just got really mad at him, turned around and roundhouse punched him. But she was a little sorceress, so she ended up hurting herself and not him. But the point got across. Um, and basically she told him, she's like, "You're an asshole. Screw you. I can't believe you did this. You almost got us all killed." And then the next time we had another thing, she was like, "Hey, can we just make sure? Like, can you just promise not to do anything crazy? Like, just fall in line." Because we don't, I don't really want to die today. And he's like, yeah, 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 no problem, no problem. And then
Mm.
immediately goes to do a thing that like gets us all into trouble. And she was just like, and I was just like, really? Are we doing this? And it was a really, really, I asked the guy later, I'm like, was that a character based decision? And he was like, yeah, I think I was also just being an asshole. And he's like,
Mm.
so I apologize. I do apologize. He's like,
So,
I
and
didn't mean
that's
to
the kind
like,
of thing where like you kind of forget sometimes that you around the table are in control of the story and also in control of who you actually invite in the real world back to the table.
yes,
And
yes.
so I feel like that those kind of decisions I always find problematic because it defeats common sense. Like that when things go against the common sense in those situations, I find it really takes me out of the game. And then you're just like, because then
Hmm.
I'm looking at this person, because I don't know for sure. You can tell me whatever you want, but I don't know whether you're making this decision as character based or whether you're just being a shit disturber here, Joe, at the table. Because you like to
Yeah,
people, you want to see the people's get ruffle their feathers. Um,
yeah,
what I do enjoy though is like, say you've got someone on in your was it party? It's a D&D party, right? Like that's the name of the
yeah.
group. Yeah. So you got someone in your party and they happened to roll low on say their art, like say they're an archer, but they happen to have like a lower archery stat because that's how their character rolled. So they have to level up their accuracy throughout their campaign. So early on in
Hmm.
the campaign, they can't hit the broadside of a barn. So like they have to roll really high in order to actually hit something. And I find that really funny where you've got someone that is really trying to be part of the team, and they're the absolute heel because like you can't hit anything, and they're trying and
Yeah,
they've got to roll really high and they can't, and everybody's like,
that was
oh,
me.
Melissa, for the love of just will you roll something good, and it becomes a
That was
joke. Like
me.
it's so good. That was me. And I didn't have a bow and arrow. I had a hammer, and I couldn't hit. Like if I landed
Mhm.
something, I obliterated it. Like there was nothing but paste left. But
Yes, yes,
I
same.
had to hit it first. And I
Yeah.
always
Oh,
found that
man, we've
really
had that
funny.
with so many different things. I find that like, so for AL, I've had a number of characters. I've had like a sorcerer, who's like she's like a glass cannon. So like if she gets hit, she's down. But like if she hits you, you're most likely down. But like
Mm-hmm.
her spells have been taking a while to get stronger and stronger. For AL, I've been playing a fighter, and oddly enough, like her skills with swords are much better than her skills with hammers or axes.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever like she is throwing axes, whenever she tries to throw anything, she always misses. So it's just an ongoing joke that the character just can't throw anything, but she's got a really mean like actual sword swing. Um,
Right.
like for reference, like this one sword that I have based on my strength, and I have like a belt of storm giant strength, which is ups my strength even more. And we're at like level 17, so we're like god tier essentially. We jokingly call it the hold my beer level. It's just like, well, I'm just gonna crack knuckles, hold my beer. I'm gonna go punch it, I guess. See what
Yeah.
happens. You know, it's
Nice.
fine. And so like for one of her attacks, for any sword based things, it's like, as long as I don't roll anything less than a 3, I got it. It's no problem, right? So
Yeah.
which at that point it just becomes too easy. I think at some point in some cases, so it's like a matter of having a decent challenge. And we
Do you
did actually.
prefer wizards and magic characters in D&D? Like I tend to flip back and forth. Like I when I
Yeah, me
played
too.
the most recent experience I have, I guess in a video game would be something like Diablo 3. And
Mm,
I went for a monk only because like I always default to the barbarian. Like I'm always the guy that wants to smash. Like it's always,
mm.
Joel smash. It's sort of fun stuff in video games like that. So I went for a monk because he was melee, but he had some. It was more quick and like kind of really cool, flashy effects and things like that. But I did eventually try a wizard, and the reason why the Diablo 3 came up is because I've heard other people refer to the wizard in Diablo 3 like a glass cannon.
Mm.
In that you don't have a lot of health or protection, but when you shoot out some spells, are they're just so incredibly
It can be
satisfying. It's
devastating.
like the
Yeah,
eye of the sun coming out of the palm of your hand. It's like
yeah.
whoosh, and things just evaporate. And it's just, that kind of stuff I always find really really fun. So I'm always on the fence because like my on World of Warcraft years ago, uh, early on, I mean, I think everybody kind of crafts a night elf because they look cool, and they're. I think I had a night elf druid or something like that, and so
Mm.
that's very kind of a. It's kind of a. I wouldn't say boring, but it's a very safe spellcaster. Like they're not
Yes.
overly exciting. They don't get more exciting until late in the game when they can start changing shape into animals and fly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I quickly changed over to a warlock, which again against type. You think that I would be more into the heavier characters, which the longest character I played on World of Warcraft was a paladin, and so that was my jam. Like it had some
Mm.
spells, but it also was mostly just like shield and screw the other guy up. But my warlock character was really fun because it had that ability to have like demon pets, but then like call down rains of like flaming fireballs from the sky, and it was just very doom and hell and fire and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I found it very interesting because it was against type for me, and I really enjoyed that. It was a good lesson, of like, even though I normally go with the big brute, like this could be kind of fun. Now, unfortunately, back then, all the human male characters in Warcraft looked like houses, like they looked like a
Mhm.
warrior no matter what class you were. So
Mhm.
I had a warlock that looks like he could bench press 240, but um, it was still fun. It was still really fun, and I want to find something like that. Something I've been playing an awful lot of Minecraft lately, and which has been fun. I'm not complaining, but I want to try to find a video game that has like that sort of like magic element again. Like
Yeah.
I want to have that experience. Like I've been watching some people play this new Apex Legends game, and it looks fun. It's a cool first person shooter. I mean, I don't have access because I'm on a Mac, but it made me think about like maybe reloading Borderlands 2 because I really like that game, and like I like that kind of loot grind for the cool next weapon and stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
remember I wanted to do I want to do something that has magic because I like Wildstar. Did you ever hear about Wildstar?
No.
So that was a sci-fi MMO. I don't remember the name of the company that put it out. Carbine Studios, I think. Um, and it was fantastic. It unfortunately didn't catch on because I mean, whether you were up against WoW and what's the other one, Elder Scrolls Online, so there was just a
Yeah.
little bit too. There was too many MMOs, and it was different enough to maybe get some ground. But it was really cool because you had like spell slingers, and they were essentially like cowboy western space gun wielders,
Ooh.
but they would shoot spells, or you would use spells to enhance your gun blasts and stuff like that. So like you would cast a rune in front of you and then you would shoot through it and it would change, your projectiles and stuff. But what was nice about it is that instead of an MMO where you're kind of like roll for hit that all happens in the background, you kind of like hit a button, watch an animation and wait. In Wildstar you had to aim. So you had to run
Oh.
around and you had to put like either a dot or a cone or a line on the ground and aim it at the enemy or enemies that you wanted to hit. And once you release the mouse button, it would then
Oh, there was
it
another MMO that was like this called Terra.
yes, I loved Terra. Terra was
Yeah, Terra
fantastic.
Genesis. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
real.
yeah,
It
yeah. It
looks
was
really
it's
nice.
very pretty. Yeah,
It's very
I played
beautiful.
yeah, I played that. I didn't get very far in it. I ended up playing the early levels a couple of times because I just kept on wanting to try new characters.
Mm,
Now in that game I was the brute. I can't
yeah.
remember what it was, but I had a lance. I guess I might have been a
Ooh.
lancer, that was what they called them, but I had this giant, it was the size of a tree, and then
Oh wow.
I was also like elephant size. Like I was a massive character, and I was able to just like own stuff. And that game had that great had a lot of impact. Like whenever you hit the ground or a character came at you and hit the ground, like the screen would shake, or like everything felt very epic in
Mhm.
Terra. I quite enjoyed it. It suffered a little bit from like an anime style where
Yeah. I mean, I
a
like
lot of
that
female
style of it.
armor
I
didn't
think
make
that's
sense, if you know what I mean.
yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I like the character design and the aesthetic. It kind of
Oh, it's
reminded me
beautiful.
of Final Fantasy 13 a little bit. Not 13,
Mm-hmm.
14,
Yep.
12. One like
Yep.
the MMO Final Fantasy.
Yep.
Which looks lovely.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
no,
do miss the
I
MMO
like Terra a
experience.
lot.
Yeah, I do miss the MMO
Yeah,
experience.
sometimes it's good. I mean, like I feel like I kind of got out of it. I think well, I got out of WoW. Like I loved WoW. I thought WoW was great, but I didn't like how you couldn't like bank your time. Like if you bought a card to play and it was like 60 days, you had to
Yep.
play out all 60 days. And
Yep.
I wish you could bank your time because I would be more likely to play more if I could do that because I can't always make it to um to my computer to play every day. Like I'm
Yeah.
busy, but would still like to be able to, play for a couple hours and then come back a week later and still have, you know, time that I paid for.
Yeah. I want
I
to
think
say
that's one of the main
WildStar was
things.
either cheaper or free to play. I can't remember which. Oh no, you know what it was? WildStar allowed you to use in-game currency to buy time. So if you were able to play a lot
Oh,
and earn your time, you could then buy more time. But I mean, it was a little lopsided. Like, I mean, obviously they wanted it to be like, well, I don't have 15 or 20 hours a week, to grind this out, so I'm going to pay the 10 or
right.
bucks or whatever it was. But I mean, it was one of those models that I think, unfortunately, it wasn't the game that sucked. I think it was their financial model was just flawed, and it was still in that realm of like things
Mm,
like Fortnite and Apex Legends and all this free to play, pay for aesthetic loot was not the way to go, uh, because it hadn't been proven. So I think Fortnite kind of really proved that you could have a free to play game and build a massive, revenue around uh, aesthetic stuff like props
mm,
and skins and stuff that does not affect gameplay. I think that a lot of CEOs and the people that would be controlling the money in larger, situations like say Carbine's Wildstar were reluctant to let that free to play go. Like they wanted to still have that sub model, and I think death by a thousand cuts. The player base is just like, I don't want to pay another subscription. I'm just going to go play something that's either cheaper or free, or stick with the one subscription I already have, right?
right.
If you want to pull people from WoW, that was 20 Canadian a month or something crazy, then you'd have to bring them in for free and then see how you can get them to stick. Not pitch them another sub and expect them to jump ship.
Yeah.
Because I never had time for more than one MMO. When I was playing Wildstar, I was not playing WoW. Like
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time. But I miss
Yeah.
MMOs. Like I miss that kind of wander around and adventure. And it's something I think I get out of Minecraft quite a bit. Is that when I enter an area that we haven't built in yet, there's that what's around this next tree sort of feeling,
Right.
which I really enjoy. But speaking of fantasy and role playing, I want to talk about a new series or a new season of a show that we've talked about on the Citadel Cafe before. I have been watching the Dragon Prince season 2 on Netflix this week, and that launched on the 15th, so the day after Valentine's
Mhm.
Day last weekend. And I've been keeping it to just 2 a day, if not 1 a day, because there's only 9 episodes in the season, which is short even for Netflix standards,
Yeah.
which is surprising because I think there was more than that. I think there was at least 13 in season 1.
How
Now,
long are the episodes?
half an hour. They're the
Oh, okay.
standard sort of like 22 minutes ish, 24, 22, something like that. Because they don't have to deal with commercials. Obviously, it's not something that's made for TV, but it's Netflix.
Right.
I think they keep them to that length because I could be incorrect, but I feel like Netflix might be distributing in other ways in other countries. Like they might try to sell it to television networks in places
Hmm.
where Netflix internet wouldn't be a feasible thing. I could be completely wrong. I don't know why they tend to stick them to still that 22 to 24 minute segment. It's fine though because the show is not so complicated that it needs to be longer. I had higher hopes when I saw the short season. I thought, ooh, maybe they're listening and doing some concise storytelling and not putting in like filler episode at around episode 6 or 8 where they all go to the mall, like
Mm.
which would take you out of the Dragon Prince. And I
Sorry, that's just a really great. I can tell that you really hated that episode of Voltron
yeah. I didn't finish
a
it.
lot.
I got 10 minutes into it. I was like, nope, we're just gonna skip this. I'm gonna email somebody that I know watched it and say, hey, was there anything important that happened in that? No, okay, fine, good. I skipped it.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's good.
and it's funny. This won't be the first comparison to Voltron in my little review. This will be spoiler free because I haven't finished the season. I'm only on episode
And I haven't seen any
6.
of it yet, and I do plan on
Yeah,
watching it.
yeah.
So
So, but none of the information given to us so far is really spoilery. So that's good. I can talk about it a little bit in depth without really, revealing too much. So for
oh, good.
example, if you've seen Dragon Prince season 1, the two princes, Ezrin and Callum,
Hmm.
their mother has passed away, but that's day 1. She's already gone. But you do get some backstory in season 2, which I thought was very, very interesting and really helps their characters and helps with some of the more adult themes. I don't not adult inappropriate, but just grown up themes
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
that the show handles. So I really enjoy that kind of stuff. It's well written mostly. I found that episode 1 and 2 were really predictable. Like the characters would almost tell you in dialogue what they're about to do next, sometimes in a
Mm,
funny way, but sometimes in a, okay, you've used this gimmick like 3 times this episode, I'm kind of done with it.
yeah,
And that was unfortunate because I didn't need a recap. Netflix has got season 1 right there. If I wanted to go recap, I could just go watch season 1. And so I felt like
exactly.
a lot of it was like rehash or reestablishing characters or reestablishing character relationships. So there was a lot of fluff in episodes 1 and 2, which I think they didn't need, which means that the season is not 9 episodes long. It's more like 7. Um,
Right.
Now, on episode 3, no sooner did I think, like, oh man, these have been pretty predictable. I'm not really looking forward to episode 3. Then some characters did some stuff where it's like, okay, I thought that this was going in a direction and it went in a different direction. Like you start to fall victim to their predictability and think, oh, I know where this is going. And they're like, oh, no, I didn't know where this is going. So in episode 3, there were some character decisions by, is it Rayla? No, not Rayla's the elf. What's the lady?
Claudia?
Claudia. Yeah. So Claudia is a character that is, you very much see two sides of her in season 1,
Mm.
and you see two sides of her in season 2 as well. Her brother Soren though is a waste of space. His character is useless so far in this. Now
You know what though?
he plays the big dumb older brother, and I get it, but he doesn't move the plot.
Right.
And
I mean,
and
I gotta be honest, I'm glad it's at least a male character who's doing that, not a female
yes,
character, like
no,
it always seems to be.
and this is something that I want to get into right away, in that this show pushes some stereotypes and boundaries in very, very good ways.
Mm.
You've got some very strong female characters. I mean, like Rayla the elf is an assassin, and she's the physical kick butt person. You know, like Callum is concerned with emotion and magic, and then you've got Ezrin, who's like a 10-year-old kid that just wants to look after, the baby dragon that hatched, in the last episode of season one. But
Mm-hmm.
and some of it's a little bit too kiddie. Like they've almost pushed it a little bit too young in some places. Like Ezrin is almost acting like he's 5 as opposed to 10.
Right.
Because he doesn't seem to be aware of like the danger or the adventure that they're on. It's like, well, yes, he should be concerned about this dragon, but you want him to be more of a big brother to the dragon, right? Like you want him to be more protective, and instead he's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like running around recklessly, and it's like, well, yeah, it's a little bit too silly in that regards. But throughout the series so far, and again, I won't say who these people are, but I think it's really important to point out that they're not only is there a very clear female gay couple, they're also royalty, and they're also biracial. So
Hmm.
and not in a African American, Caucasian way. I want to say even one of them might be either Asian or potentially even like modeled after like a Native American First Nations. Like it's really, really
Excellent.
imaginative. And what's wonderful about it is that I am calling more attention to it now than the show does. It
Mm.
just happens. They walk in and everybody goes, "Oh, hey, it's them. How are you?" And nothing is mentioned. No one
I
bats an
love that.
eyelash. No one. It,
Love
it is
that.
phenomenal to know that there's young people watching the show, and you've got princes and princesses that have mixed race parents. They've got step parents. They've got now there's a lesbian couple that are queens, and they've got offspring, and like it just and they never get into the like, well, how does that work? There's never a snide comment, which you kind of expect, but you're relieved doesn't happen because they make a lot of snide comments about other stuff where it gets a little bit jokey in places, and you're just like, I'm really glad that they drew a line in the sand. They're like, okay, yeah, this stuff we're not going to joke about. Like this stuff is going to be
Mm.
some real social commentary. There are some speeches that seem to be a little bit on the nose for current political climates in 2019. The idea of war. I love the callbacks. There's a couple of stories where they reference an old battle, and it's a story being told about history. And it's not the battle, but a lot of the themes and the emotions that they're weaving into how the kingdom and the people felt about this event very, very quickly bring thoughts of the First and Second World War and veterans. And so, like,
Mm.
they are touching on everything, but in a way that is not an after school special. And I cannot give it more credit than now. Like, it's so well done in that regards. I wish it wasn't as jokey because it does tend to, yes, they handle some serious stuff and then they switch the lanes to be more like satirical, but they really overdo it on the jokes this season, and it starts to get
Mm.
it starts to kind of drive you nuts. Like Rayla does her human impression, and she says the word human normally throughout every other conversation, but as soon as she starts to pretend to be a human, she says human, and it's just like, you're
Mm.
you're more intelligent than this. I don't understand why you're all of a sudden dropping to be as dumb as a rock when you're impersonating a human and then referring to yourself as a human. But she'll say stuff like, "We're gonna walk around and have weird conversations about getting to someplace just slightly faster than the way we did before." And it was a funny joke, but then she does like 3 more of them in a row. It's like, no, that was funny if you had
Yeah.
just done that one. But then it's
Mm.
like all the people in the writing room wanted their joke in the show, so they let them have it. And so stuff like that does tend to pull you out of it. And that's where it does remind me of Voltron. Like there's an awful lot of making fun of current 2019 human culture, like a lot.
Right.
And you're in a world with dragons and this wonderful, world building sort of aspect, and it really kind of pulls you out of it when they do that like 3 times an episode, and
Mm-hmm.
and I find that that's a little bit annoying. I wish it got good faster. I'm on episode 6. I think it's called The Heart of the Titan, and that is the best episode that I've seen so far this season by leaps and bounds. So it took 5 episodes for me to really feel like, oh yeah, this is the Dragon Prince that I know and love. So,
Right.
and I've only got like 3 more episodes after this. So I'm like, you took a little while to get here, guys. Like there wasn't a need for all this uh, drag out, sort of situation.
Yeah.
But the good far outweighs the bad. It is still a very pretty, very imaginative show. Uh, Anytime there's a fight scene, you're just on the edge of your chair because the animation is so well done.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what I loved about the first season as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fights choreography was really fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I really liked that animation style.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's very it's different, but it feels familiar, and it's I
Yeah.
don't know,
Well,
it's
it's
good.
very
I like it.
to bring up the weekly Rooster Teeth shout out. It's very Rooster Teeth, and I
Hmm.
still need to check out that new show. And this makes me want to check out more Teeth style stuff. I'm
Yeah,
trying to remember the sister's name. That's the general. Do you remember her name?
Amaya.
You're right, General Amaya. That's it. She's not on IMDb for some reason. At least not in the
So
main.
she's silent.
Oh, of course. That's stupid. That's well, but but the character isn't listed. Like I'm looking at a list of
Oh,
characters.
I'm just like general, like just like
Like
I
I
mean,
was scrolling through the whole production staff, like looking for animators, like lead animators and characters and stuff like
mm,
that. But they must be sharing the load. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. Of course, she wouldn't have an actor credit, but like I was looking for like a
yeah,
character list. Um, she's also, of course, in season two and remains to be one of the strongest, coolest kick butt sort of
I
situations.
really
Yeah.
like her so far from what I've seen of her. I
Yeah.
really like
There's
her a
some new
lot.
baddies. There's some new baddies. Although I'm
Mm,
not really sold on Viren. He's not a great villain.
no,
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping he isn't the villain. Like I kind of hope that there's somebody else that really is like an because I mean, I appreciate the subtlety of like he's a politician, right? Like he's a dark magic politician. And so
right.
there's a lot of parallels to a whiny, spoiled dark magic politician that you can
Hmm.
see when they're writing for him because he acts like a petulant child. He's in no way threatening. Like I'm not scared of him at all, right? Um,
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it needs a doom and gloom villain with horns and a cape, but it would be nice to have have some sort of real threat, you know, because
right.
that doesn't appear to have it yet. Now, what's good about the show is that the enemy, the quote unquote enemy, is like the elves. But we're already seeing that everybody in the series is neither good nor bad. Like humans have done terrible things, elves have done mistakes and terrible things. And so like there's a bunch of stuff that kind of paints everybody gray. So there's no real like hero race, right? Which is
Which I
good.
really.
Yes. No, I agree. But the problem is that then your character motivation is like I
Oh,
like
yeah.
they're not that revenge is a good motivation for someone that we want to approve of, but like there's no driving force. I mean, they're taking this dragon egg back to I can't remember the name of the magical land. Uh, Anyway, not important. So
I don't
they're
remember
taking
either.
the egg back or the dragon now back to the magical land. But like, there's no if we don't, then bad things happen, or we're going to save the world by doing this. Like, there's no really very clear mission, which I think is lacking.
There's no
Yeah, they
stake.
talk about it and they say like, oh, we got to stop the war. Well, Viren is still trying to even get the war started. Like it's not like there's not pending doom. Any pending doom is just Viren on his soapbox saying pending doom is coming when there is no pending doom coming, and you know that as a viewer. So there's
Mm,
that he's full of crap. So yeah, so there's
right.
some shortcomings there. Now I say all of this having not finished the season. And I say all of it recommending it wholeheartedly to everyone to watch it. Again,
Yeah.
not for maybe 5 to 7 year olds. Like you want to be 8 to 12 or older for watching it with your kids. There's some
Yeah.
pretty adult concepts and real peril. Like some characters don't make it, and so that might be hard for for really young kids, especially because it's in a cartoon
Mm,
and there's expectations that have been set over years about what cartoons have in them. So, but yeah,
right.
it's very good. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it when you've had a chance to watch it. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'll probably be starting it soon. I mean, I'm finishing up the Umbrella Academy right
how's
now.
that?
Which I really like it. It's it's really it's really hard to play. It's really dark. It's got like a it's got a really intense comic book feel with it's I'm trying to think of all the things that kind of reminds me of. It kind of reminds me of Watchmen without being as gritty. It kind of reminds me of The Adventures without being as goofy, uh, and without as like
Hmm.
actiony. It kind of reminds me a little bit of X-Men without being so like, we're a school of kids, with a eccentric professor. Like it's got a real comic book vibe, a real superhero vibe, but it's like sort of the dark side of being a superhero, I
Okay.
guess. Um, and it's also really fun though. I don't know. It's got a really interesting mix of things that are happening. So it's got like, a really traditional, oh, end of the world is coming. We only have a certain amount of time to
Mm.
fix it, sort of situation. But the way that they're dealing with it is, I think they're from what I'm guessing right now, they're kind of navigating more so the personalities of these kids. So from the trailers that have been out there, it's on this one day, October 12th, 1986 or something. Like this one specific day, 47 women around the world all gave birth at the exact same time. But what was interesting about it is that none of the women started the day pregnant. They just were suddenly pregnant and suddenly were
Wow.
giving birth at the same time all around the world. And there's no explanation as to why that's happened yet. Um, what's really nice about the show is that it doesn't give too much away at once. It doesn't beat you over the head
Nice.
with information. It'll give you a little bit, and then it's like, that's all you get for now. We'll come back to that later. And it's a really nice way of like keeping you
Hmm.
pulled in, because it like nothing really. Some people don't like this, but my mom was like, "What's going on?" when we were watching it together. But I think she finally managed to get it, because it doesn't do everything chronologically. Like, it doesn't give you all the information at once. So when you first start the show, you see in the first episode, you see our very own Halifax's own Ellen Page, playing this character named Varya, who's number 7.
Okay.
So this guy, essentially, out of the 46 kids that were born on this one day, he managed to get 7 of them. Like, he went around the world and found the women who'd given these birth to these children. It was he has 7. And his idea was that these kids, because they were all born at the exact same time without, no prompting, literally no prompting, they must have some sort of special abilities, and that plays true for 6 of the 7 that he has. So Valen Page plays Varya, who is number 7, and you find out that she has no ability. She's just, her dad keeps telling her, like, they just call him Dad. He's like, in a sense, much colder Professor X, and he's like a philanthropist, and a visionary, but he's very, very like focused on his work, and he's very cold and calculating. Like, everything is done for his own gain and like his own
Nice.
experiments. So he's not very good at being affectionate to all these 7 kids. They're kind of all chasing his affection, but not ever to able get it, ever not able to ever get it. There we go. That sentence came out weird. So you see this. There's just one like bank heist scene where you see the 6 other kids participating in like stopping this bank heist and basically getting rid of the guys doing the bank heist with not a lot of finesse, because they're children and they're just kind of
Right.
getting started. But there's a shot of Varya up on the roof, like watching with her dad, and she was like, "Why can't I go with the others?" And he's like, "We've been over this already. There's just nothing special about you." And she's like, "Oh yeah, right, you said." Um, so it's kind of starts off where all of these kids are, they're adults now, and they've all gone off in their own, walks of life. And one of them lives up on the moon, and one of them is a movie star, and one of them is a drug addict. And um, it's kind of how they all sort of like separated, and how they got to that point where they were all separated. And it also explains why some of them kind of are messed up in the way that they are. Like the guy who's addicted to drugs, his name's Klaus. He's number 3. um, he can commune with the dead. So he's always just seeing dead people around him all the time. So in order to drown them out, he was like, "Well, I'm going to get
Mm.
really high and just not deal with it." So he lives on this like cusp of like, you know, taking drugs to the point where he is almost dead, and then being like brought, being like, the where he's like shocked in the chest to bring him back, and it's like
Right.
that's a high for him. And he's nuts. The actor who plays him is fantastic. He was in
Oh,
Misfits.
yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with that
Um,
show.
yeah, yeah, he similar power in Misfits as well, but he's always like he's really really good at playing crazy characters, and he's just really like quirky and over the top and just very like gender neutral and just out there, and really really great. And I don't know, there's it I could go on forever. There all the characters are really really different, and they all have their own unique set of skills. And number one, Luther, I don't remember what the actor's name is. He's been in a lot of stuff before. um I'm just
Tom
trying to
Hopper?
find his name here. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff before, and his character just looks like a really like over the top cut superhero physique, like really really broad shoulders, really huge arms. And there's a reason for that, and it explains it later. But he's just this huge, massive dude when you first see him. So you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, who's this guy? He lives on the moon at one point, and so like everyone has their own path, and you kind of realize that they've all separated, and it's kind of figuring out how they managed to separate, and they all come together because their dads passed away, so they're kind of all coming together
Right.
for the funeral. And you can tell there's some like familial discourse there, and everyone's kind of not quite happy with Varya because it's revealed that she wrote a book that kind of gave away family secrets and things. And um, but in the midst of that, it's also trying to like they had a brother that was missing who's number five, and like most of them have like they're like their number 1 to 7, and then they have this weird robot mom named Grace, but they all just call her mom. And she looks kind of like a 50s housewife.
Weird.
She's great. I don't know, she's adorable. It's a really
Yeah,
weird
it sounds like
amalgamation
Doom
of
Patrol
stuff
from
that
Titans,
kind of
right?
happens all. Yeah, yeah, kind of. Um, and so she gave them all actual names, with the exception of Five. He just goes by Five forever, and he, was obviously the sort of rebel of the group, and decided one day he's like, well, I'm ready to jump back in time because he can like do spatial
Mm-hmm.
jumps. Like he can basically teleport himself a couple seconds in the future to get ahead of somebody. But he was only ever able to do like small jumps. And he decided, I'm ready to jump in time. And his dad said no. He was like, all right, screw you, dad, watch me. Walks out the door, jumps through time, and ends up somewhere in the apocalypse, and he can't get
Oh,
back.
wow.
So he knows that the world is going to end. He lived through the world ending. He lived in that, doomsday apocalyptic world for like 50 odd years. So his subconscious is like 50. But when he managed to get a chance to go back in time, back to, to meet up with his siblings, his body kind of reverted back to his 13-year-old self when he first disappeared from
Oh,
that timeline.
okay.
And he's just out there. Like he thinks he's got everything on hold, but he keeps like he keeps talking about this woman named Dolores, who I don't even think she really exists. I think she's like someone that he made up.
Mm.
And like because they keep talking about how time can mess with your mind a little bit. But he's convinced that this world, like the world is ending in a certain amount of time, and he's trying to like get his siblings together to help him stop it. But they're still trying to all figure out how to actually come together and be a team again, because they've been apart from each other for like 14 years. And it's really it's different, and it's weird, and it's I don't know, it's really
Different
really
is
great.
good, right? Like different
Yeah.
definitely gets some points. I've had a number of people suggest that I check it out, and and a friend that does not watch superhero stuff say I'm gonna watch this weird show called Umbrella Academy, and I didn't say anything. I was like, I don't know if you're gonna like it, but I'm curious to, so I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go
Yeah.
check it out and tell me what you think. Because even friends that I know that are into this superhero stuff are saying things like you, like it's good, but it's weird,
Mm.
and
It's taking a familiar concept of superheroes and making it
mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't
really.
I'm hard pressed. I know I should check it out. It does not sound like my kind of thing. Lou, Busy Zombie Lord, in our Discord chat was talking about it and comparing it to like anti-hero stuff. Now he's a big Deadpool fan and he knows
Mm,
that I'm not a big anti-hero. So he's like, Joel, I don't know if it's going to be up your alley. And somebody else, I think it was Chris, had mentioned that it's a very similar kind of parallel to The Watchmen,
Yeah,
and that sort of
yeah,
stuff,
definitely got watched it. Yes,
which I
watched it
didn't
by.
enjoy at all. So it's one of those things where like, yeah, for
But
me,
I would
as
argue that it's not as gritty as The Watchmen, though.
sure,
Like
sure,
Watchmen was
yeah,
like dark.
yeah, yeah. And I feel too that I understand that I'm on the outside of all of this, and I'm a bit of a special case. Where like I'm okay with watching Superman stop bank robbers. Like it just there's
Hmm.
something very traditional about a superhero archetype. Like it's why I don't often play villainous characters in MMOs. Is because like I want to be the Captain America type character. Like that's kind of where I
Right,
roll. I'm okay with being like the Hulk, but like I still have good intentions. you know
right.
and so I know that I specifically fall a little bit on, we'll say, the right side of center when it comes to anti-heroes and all that kind of stuff. So I know that I have a thorn on my side there. But is it
Hmm.
well produced, like well done, well easy to watch? Like
Oh
it's not.
yeah,
It's I mean
it's
good show. Like it's something we didn't really
it's
necessarily like Titans, but it was still a good show to watch. Right? It was still
yes,
well
yeah,
done.
yeah. No, it is really like the writing is really great. The acting is really fantastic.
Mm.
Um, the music selection is great. That's one thing I had to say about Titans as well. Like
Yeah.
like the music selection for a lot of stuff was really really fantastic, and everyone had their own kind of music that they had associated with them. This one kind of takes for fight sequences. It takes songs that you wouldn't expect to have. It usually, instead of like this big swelling dramatic piece of music, it's more of like one of them is like Constantinople or whatever. I don't know what the song is called.
Mm-hmm.
It's really catchy. It's like if as soon as you hear it, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that song." You've heard it before, but it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those weird ones that like kind of scoots under the radar.
Yep.
And they had like a Queen song playing during another there's a showdown in a used clothing store. It was like closed at night, and you have these two agents who are trying to like stop this number five kid, and there's like this big shootout, but it's like a Queen song that plays in
Nice.
the background. I don't know. It's got a really, really excellent selection of music, and I like that sort of dichotomy of really intense scenes with a really, really um like offbeat music. For some reason, it just creates this whole like different kind of chaos in your
Mm.
brain that's just like, whoa, I did not expect that. And it works in a really good way. I kind of went in without a lot of opinions about it. Like I was like, all right, I'll give this a try. I mean, I'm always a Ellen Page fan, and I want to support local even though it's not produced locally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um
No, she's a good actor.
and she's a great actor. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
fantastic. I so far I find her character the flattest out of all of them so far, though. But I feel like there's something else coming
Sounds
for
like a
her.
slow burn. Like it
Yeah,
sounds like they're
and it is
building
a
her
slow
up for
burn. It
something. Yeah.
is a really slow burn. It is not a. It's a. Yeah, like it doesn't give too much away too quickly, so it's very very slow.
Mm.
I really like that actually. Like I find usually I'm too anxious to get to the end, but I think it gives you enough and it explains enough that it's fun to enjoy the ride on this one.
Cool.
I'm kind of just letting it happen
Yeah.
as it happens.
I'll be looking for something after Dragon Prince is over, and I'm probably going to be in the
Yeah,
mood for something more fantastical.
it's
So I'll check it out.
I don't know. I know you didn't like Watchmen, but I feel like it's not. It's got Watchmen energy, but it's not the same as Watchmen, and I feel like it adds enough little humor and like quirkiness to it that I think
Right.
it's more fun. It's definitely more fun than Watchmen.
Yeah. Well, no,
Um,
Watchmen was not written by anybody that actually liked superheroes. Like, you know what I mean? Like or it doesn't feel that way, right?
yeah.
Whereas if or even like the genre, it was so critical, like so
Mm,
critical. And no one, I shouldn't say no one, I don't like to sit down and be entertained and have the entertainment point out everything that's wrong in the world, not everything that's wrong in their imaginary world, but like everything that's wrong in the world. It's like that's
in the
not
world, yeah.
fun for
This
me.
Yeah, this one's not really like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that. It doesn't break down society and it's like here's all the terrible things. It does
Hmm.
stick to the sort of more superhero fantastical element of like, well, the world's ending and we got to stop it.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Right. So
Yeah.
it focuses more so on that, but it's also focusing on the dichotomy of like these siblings who've, are all alienated from each other
Mm.
and kind of how they're navigating the situation. There's like a lot of mystery about their dad's death and
And there's only seven of them, as opposed to, there's 40 something of them, but there's only seven in the show. So that makes me curious as to what's happening with the others too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, like it focuses on the main seven. Well, the main six actually, because you find out right away that one of them died right
Right.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have six that had powers. One of the ones that had powers ended up getting killed somehow. You don't know how he got killed.
Right. So that's
At least I don't know
one
yet.
of those bits of information that they
Yeah.
drag out a little bit. Yeah.
So
Cool.
you know it's a thing, and that's shown like right in the first like 10 minutes of the first
Right.
episode.
Yeah.
That one of them, it's like through a series of portraits, like
It's a
you
great what
see,
happened sort of like
yeah,
catch at the very beginning. Yeah.
exactly. And everything is a catch because, like, when it introduces all the people to, it's like we have Varya number seven, Luther number one, Diego number two, Klaus number three, and then that's it. Or you get Allison who's number four, and then you don't know what happened. That doesn't mention anyone else afterwards. You're like, well, where's the other two?
Mm,
There's seven of them. What?
right.
What's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Like right away, it gets you, and
Yeah.
like
You're
it's
like,
like,
hey, I can
oh,
count to seven, and that wasn't seven. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
nice.
So it's
Very cool.
and you don't notice that like you're missing people until like the end because like the notable thing about it is that there's five guys and two girls, but when you see like the superhero team, there's only five guys and one girl, and it's like, well, where's the other girl?
Mm.
Like, and you know, and that's Varya, who's kind of been like left out of a lot of stuff. But there's, I don't know, there's a lot of really great things. It does, and I think what you will like most about it is that it doesn't beat you over the head with information. As soon as I watched it, I was like, Joel would like the pacing of this a lot because it's not like,
Something I like about the Dragon Prince as well is that in some of the later episodes this season, and certainly in the first season, they don't beat you over the head with stuff. They will present a lot of information, and you're not waiting for more than an episode for an answer to a question, so it's not that vague about it. But they
yeah,
also don't walk around going, "This is the plan. The plan is this. Hey, by the way, we should do the plan. Remember the plan? We should do the plan." Like it's not Arrow. Like
mm-hmm.
it's not that kind of a show, which is something I welcome because it's nice to see that that Netflix is at least getting that. Netflix, man, they're doing some good stuff.
They're
I would
doing some good
if you're a
stuff.
writer these days, I would imagine there's a lot of people that would like to work with Netflix because they seem
Yeah.
to. They I don't know for sure, obviously, but they strike me as directors and producers that work and listen to writers. Like they don't necessarily want to do what's popular. They want to tell a good story, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
I
that's
mean, like, if it becomes, because I think we're at that place now with media where, like, telling a good story is the important part.
yeah,
Graphics aren't cutting it anymore. Like,
yeah,
we're at a
yeah. No,
period
no,
where,
yeah.
like, you
Hmm.
know, I think we talked about that last time, how, you know, having big exploded graphics at one point in time was really, really great. And at the time, because it was so new, it was like, oh, like that, be cool. You know, that was a great movie because it was some good explosions, awesome.
Yeah.
But it didn't tell a good story.
No.
But even like the most simple stories can be expanded on, and I feel like that's what, you know, like it sounds like the Dragon Prince is doing that, and I mean, I felt like it did with the first season. The Umbrella Academy is doing that. It's taking this normal superhero trope and like sort of twisting it just a little, just give it a little tweak so that it's still fresh, but it's still familiar. It's still
Nice.
it's a knowing, it's a concept that we all know about. Superheroes got to save the world. World's ending. Got to stop it. Really, really basic, classic superhero story, but it's just sideways enough to make it something that you haven't seen before.
Cool.
So it's, and I like how a lot of people are taking that concept of like, you know, toning down the amount of effects and graphics and stuff that once made movies a good movie, and now focusing on the storytelling that makes a good story a good story.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people have been going that direction lately, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, I mean, Netflix has the numbers to say, "Hey, this works.
It's true.
You
It's
should
true.
you
It's
should do it
true.
this way because we have now the stats and the non-storytellers, the bankers and the CEOs can now see the data and go like, okay, well, I guess we can do it that way now, as
Yeah.
opposed to just going with what worked before because that's what the numbers said." So, but anyway,
Right.
that's about all we have time for this episode of the Citadel Cafe. If you want to drop us a line and let us know what you think about the Umbrella Academy or the Dragon Prince season 2, then you can shoot us a line at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. All of the show notes and links to the stuff that Megan and I talked about will be at thecitadelcafe.com. And the entire show is brought to you by you. If you like this kind of stuff, if you enjoy listener-supported podcasts, then head on over to patreon.com/thecitadelcafe and find out how you can become a a Citadel Cafe member and help keep the show going. It goes a long way to paying for things like, microphones and server time and all that kind of stuff. Even just the time that I take to have to edit and produce and post the show. All of it is supported by our fantastic patrons. We are sitting at 15 patrons, which is how we started February. I would love to have 16 by the time February ends. So check that out at patreon.com/The Citadel Cafe. And let me know what you think when you're over at the page. If you think there's something missing, or if there's a perk or something that you'd like to contribute, then drop me a line and let me know. You can subscribe for free to the Citadel Cafe on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. And I forgot to check, but one of the things that you can do that supports the show a great deal is leave a review on your platform of choice, whether that's iTunes or Spotify or whatever. Any kind of starred review or a written review goes a long way to get the podcast in front of people that are just looking for something new on those platforms. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. And I'm going to plug Twitch, because that's where I've been spending an awful lot of time lately. I've been having a lot of fun with both the community there, as well as playing some Minecraft and doing some art streams, and even a combination of Minecraft art streams. It's been a wacky and weird time over there, and I can't thank the people in the chat enough. It's been a really cool, supportive community and a very fun conversation when I'm over there streaming on the weekend. So check that out at twitch.tv/JoelDuggan, and I hope to see you there. Megan, where can people find the stuff that you're doing online?
People can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Megan Townsend. And if you want to follow my personal project, The Heir of Keldanon, which is kind of in the vein of The Dragon Prince, you can find that on Instagram as well, The Heir, H-E-I-R, of Keldanon.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.